whenever we talk about fear, then we are talking about, fear is good because it helps us to survive. Yes, that's true. That's the bottom of it, right? So we need fear, but also it has this energy that we can harness, and that is what I want to show people, how they can do that and how to reframe the connection they have with fear. Fear is not my enemy, but it's my friends. And how can I get from seeing it as my enemy to seeing it as my friend and actually like working together with my fear?
Hey, lady, welcome to Confessions of a Surf Lady, a podcast by the Surf Society. For so long, women have been misrepresented by the surf industry, only highlighting a narrow and exclusive version of who a surf lady can be. But you and I both know that there is so much more to women surfing than that. This podcast right here is a place to tell our story, how we want to tell it. At Confessions of a Surf Lady, you'll meet everyday surf ladies doing amazing things in their local communities, as well as pros, world champs, big wave riders, and badass living legends from women's surf history, all sharing their stoke on this blossoming global women's surf culture. What's even more special, though, is that you, yes, you, will get a chance to participate in the conversation by leaving me your confessions. I'm your host, Laura Day. Think of me as your new favorite surf sister, connecting you to your beautiful global women's surf community, helping you boost your confidence before you head out for your next surf, and even dropping a few surf tips from the Surf Society along the way. If you want to stay connected with me, find me on Instagram. That's at Confessions of a Surf Lady. Kind of use that like my personal account. And then go ahead and follow at Surf Society. That's SURF SOCIETE. There, you'll find a handful of free resources to help you through your surfing journey. All right, lady, thanks again for joining me here at Confessions of a Surf Lady, where we're cultivating a global women's surf culture through thoughtful conversation. Let's get to our episode, yeah? Hey lady, it's your host, Laura Day. In today's episode, you are going to meet one of our surf guides at the Surf Society. Her name is Kim Chareonbood. She is a certified sports mental trainer, life coach, and hypnotherapist. She is also the founder of Fearless Surfer, where she offers one-on-one coaching focused on helping you push past your fears in the lineup. Kim is just one of the amazing surf guides we've had. Our surf guides are industry experts that I invite into the Surf Society membership to come and share their specialty knowledge. We do this through our live events, our workshops, our open Q&As, where our members get to interact and ask questions one-on-one in a super supportive setting. So today, you are going to learn a little bit more about Kim and what she does, as well as a little bit more about the Surf Society and the amazing people that you get to meet there when you become a member. If you, yes, you, are ready to push yourself to learn more, surf better, and live happy, it is time to join the Surf Society membership. We would love to see you there. So try out your first week on me. All you have to do is click the link in the show notes, create your account, and then come hang out with us. You'll also get access to the Surf Lab, which is our growing library of resources and content that you can access on demand anytime. In the Surf Lab, you're going to learn so much. There are workshops from mindset to meditation to ocean knowledge and reading the break and so much more. Hit that link in the show notes and join us for your first week free. All right, lady, let's get to our episode, yeah? Welcome, Kim. Thank you so much for joining me here on Confessions of a Surf Lady. It's been a while since we chatted, but I'm so stoked to have you.
Hi, Laura. Same. I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, let's talk about surfing.
Yeah. So the last time we connected, you were a surf guide in the Surf Society membership. It was so great to have you. And you took us through 3 workshops, which we'll talk about in a bit. But your specialty is dealing with fear in the surf, right? And also overcoming traumatic experiences in the surf. Tell me more about how you got into, what inspired you to specialize in this?
I was always interested in the mental part of sports. And then, of course, because surfing has become my passion, it was also in surfing. And then what I experienced when I was talking with other women, especially, was that they were so blocked by fear. because I'm a landlocked surfer and I often meet other landlocked surfers, like ladies who didn't grow up at the ocean, or like, yeah, they're just not used to the water. Yeah, and then that's how it came to be, because it's just being landlocked and the ocean being so vast and so powerful. That's just a big thing. And then I thought, wow, okay, with what I can do, I can really help these people overcome their fear, find courage, especially when they have traumatic experiences, because what I do is hypnotherapy. And that is what I use to overcome traumatic experiences.
Tell us the kind of the background of your credentials too, because maybe some people might not understand. It's like sports mental training, hypnotherapy, and retreats also.
Yes. So what my educational background is life coaching, hypnotherapy, and sports mental training. And then I do one-on-one coachings and I organize the retreats.
How does hypnotherapy help with like overcoming a traumatic experience? I'm super interested in that.
Well, what it does is it works on the emotional level, because when you have this traumatic experience, it's like in our body, in our system, in our mind, and it kind of has its own life, because what happens in our brain is the information of the traumatic experience, because it was so overwhelming, it can't be processed in a normal way, and it leaves kind of an imprint of an unfinished story. That makes sense, and gets triggered again by similar things. Like if I see a big wave and it was a big wave that caused that I almost drowned, or at least that I had the feeling that I almost drowned.
Are there certain consistencies you see with people, like people overcoming fear? Are there certain things that most people deal with?
You mean like the same type of fear?
Yeah. Like, do you see that amongst the people that you work with, like recurring fears?
Yeah, most often it's about bigger, steeper waves, because what it does is, well, they wipe out, they're underwater, it's really powerful, they kind of panic. And that is one of the biggies. Yeah, the waves, the size of the waves, and the crowds, of course. And there's two things with the crowds. There's the injuries, yeah. So birds flying, and they could injure someone or someone could injure them. And then we have the social fear. I don't want to be in the way of anybody because they could get angry at me, or they deserve the waves more than I do. All these kinds of topics that go down to self-worth. That's a big thing as well. Yeah, those are the two big ones with landlocked surfers.
And that's interesting, because I would say, even if you're not a landlocked surfer, you can experience like really similar, right, scenarios. Like you're talking about like the fear of big waves when I was lost in the Philippines. I mean, again, like you said it, like you hit the nail on the head. You think you're drowning. I thought I was drowning. It wasn't. Like I clearly didn't. And it's this weird, like, so it was a big wave that came and I just got pushed down, and I felt my feet on the ground when I knew we were in a channel. So I knew it was deep. And then, I just was like, hold your breath and just kick and kick and kick. And then another wave comes and there's so much going on. And it's just this weird balance between like, well, I survived it. So clearly I was capable, but oh my God, that was scary. And I remember that afternoon, I told the surf guide I was with, I was like, we have to go to surf small waves. I need to do this tonight. Like, I can't like go to bed with, with this like big wipeout in my head. But what was so crazy was the next day we went to a different spot to surf. It wasn't as big, but some of those waves were still kind of powerful. And there was a wave that came through that it wasn't as big, but in my brain, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen again. And it was so weird. In the situation where I would normally close my eyes and go under, I kept my eyes open the entire time and had never done that before. Yeah. And I like saw the wave come over me, and I even looked behind me and I saw the wave like close behind me. And then it was like the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. So it was this mixture, both situations, the mixture of like fear, but also did I gain some confidence? And then stress, but also that was really beautiful.
Yeah, right. I had a similar experience where I really thought I'm gonna drown. And the next day it was very small, but I would pull back on every wave for a week. But then the beauty of it all just like overtook again. And then I'm still like scared a little bit. It's always, I mean, if we are a bit out of our comfort zone, right, we always feel that tingle of, it feels like excitement, but it's also fear, right? So it's very similar. So it's kind of a mix of both. One really good thing you did, Laura, was just to go back and not going home with the bad experience. That was a really good thing because then your brain could process in a whole different way.
It's so interesting. I think one of the really cool things you brought to the workshops that you taught in the Surf Society, which we have in our platform, is the brain science behind it. And then like just making the fear scientific versus like emotional. And then also because of the way you explained all of that, you took very complex scientific ideas and boiled it down for us to understand, which is really awesome. It becomes less, I guess, more relatable. Like we can all hit that place of fear and anxiety in the ocean. That's really interesting, though. I mean, that I've heard, I don't know, maybe you can confirm this for me, that there's a lot of like, especially when the waves get bigger or it gets a little bit more critical out there, most people are stressed and anxious and they just don't show it.
I'm a bit biased, right? Because I work with, especially with people who have a fear. So in my experience, like almost everyone has a fear. But I think the bigger part of the people, they're fine. What often happens is they're fine for a while and then they get some bad experiences and it starts building up at some point. Or like at some point they have a really bad experience. But I think when I look around, when I go surfing, I see a lot of people that are like kind of fine in the water. Yeah. But they don't go if it gets bigger or more challenging. It's mostly men in the water. Like wherever I go surfing, as soon as it gets a bit bigger, I don't see many women. Yeah. I always wonder where they are because there's good surfers out there. What's your experience, Laura, when you go surfing?
You know, I think of this time that I was at a spot that I don't normally surf. I was visiting a friend and it's over by a jetty. And I was looking where we were at. It was breaking, but it wasn't connecting from like where it was breaking all the way out there, all the way through. I was like, oh, I really want one of those waves. Like, I really want one. And of course, you're sitting there battling with yourself, like, I want that wave, but I'm not confident enough to go over there. And there's all these people over there. And finally, I told myself, like, well, if you really want one, you're not going to catch it over here. You have to be
So
over
true.
there. Yeah. So I think I told myself, like, why don't I just sit by it? Like, I don't have to take off on anything. And it was more like a point at that spot. So there's enough of a channel where you're safe. You're not having to like battle through beach break to keep your spot. But I'm like, what if I just sit over there? So I paddled over and I just sit and I'm kind of like watching everyone. And I think it was at that moment I started to notice that most of the guys that were there, not all of them, obviously some of them are very comfortable and this is their break, but were less experienced than me and probably just as nervous with the crowd that was there and the waves that were coming through. And then that helped level the playing field for my head mentally. Like, okay, I'm not the odd one out here, even though when I was sitting over there, I thought I would be the odd person out.
And that's a really interesting thing. When I did my retreats and I was talking, like there was a spontaneous sharing circle. We didn't plan on it, it just came up. And then the ladies would say, you know, I feel that I kind of don't belong to the group. And then the other lady said, like, yeah, I have the same. And I'm like, ladies, what's happening here? I mean, you're like a really cool group. Everyone is so cool, and you're having a great time with each other. Like they really had a great time with each other, but inside they felt like they are, as you said, this odd person. And I mean, in this case, it had a lot to do with self-worth, right?
Yeah.
But just to point out that so many people feel like I don't belong, but everyone else is like just feeling the same very often. And I think in knowing that we are not alone, that it's normal to normalize these things, to normalize our feeling, to normalize our fear. It's okay to have it. We can still do things with those feelings. That I think that's really helpful.
How do you deal with like that fine line of pushing yourself? You want to get better. You want to surf bigger waves. Let's say that's a thing, or bigger, steeper, faster waves. And how do you step into that fear safely, I guess? Because you're not going to avoid the fear is not going to go away, is my guess, right?
Yeah, true. You said something before that you went step by step, and you can really do mini step by mini step. People usually say like, okay, now I have to go there and I have to take this wave. No, the first step is just go closer and then go a little closer. And then maybe the next day you go a little closer. And then you maybe try a wave, you don't take it, but you try and you pull back. It's fine. It's the next step, right? That is one thing you can do. Go really mini step by mini step and be fine with it. Don't think ahead. Just think for the next little thing you can do. And I think that's really important, is to ask yourself really honestly, how much risk am I ready to take? You have to be able to reflect to do that. Some people can do it by themselves. Some need a little help from a coach to get there. But yeah, you just need to know what is at the bottom of your fear. Yeah. Usually people say, okay, so I ask some questions to go through the layers of fear to find the bottom of the fear. And in most cases, if it's about the size of the wave, in most cases, it's to get hurt, to drown. And then you're like, okay, but in this wave, how likely is it that you're going to hurt yourself? And how likely is it that you're going to die? And I think the dying question is, I mean, I don't know anyone who died, not in the conditions we're in. Not that it can't happen. There's always a risk, because if you go surfing, you chose. And that's the thing, you chose a sport that has risks. If you're not willing to take risks, you can't go surfing. You know, there's just no point in you going surfing, even not small waves, because in the small waves, there's more accidents, I would say, than in the bigger ones. Yeah. Because you don't pay attention and there's more people and And that's also a thing. Yeah, just know what's at the bottom of your fear, what's the risk you want to take, and be honest with yourself.
Imagine this. What if you felt empowered to establish your place in intimidating lineups? What if you developed the mental toughness to surf new locations in challenging conditions so you could surf more often, catch more waves, and have more fun in every session? What if you had the knowledge and the physical skill to catch and ride more waves so you could practice maneuvers like cross-stepping, nose riding, trimming, carving, and ultimately become a better surfer on the wave? Last but not least, what if you had a sisterhood of friendships with women all over the world who support your growth in the lineup? Women who are passionate about the sport and the lifestyle and know how to have fun, but also bring quality conversations to the table that help you push your surf skills and celebrate your wins. All of this is a part of being a member at the Surf Society, which is my women's online community that was really inspired by this podcast. So if you love this podcast, you are going to love the Surf Society. Join us for your first week free by hitting the link at the top of the show notes, because I would love to see you there. Whether you had an epic surf session or some epic wipeouts, it's pretty impossible to avoid that tangled post-surf hair. But with Dip's After Swim and Surf Conditioner Bar, you never again have to give up a good hair day. Just run that conditioner bar through your wet post-surf hair and let it soften and detangle those beautiful locks. This bar, along with Dip's range of hair care products, work for all hair types, lasts super long, and better yet, this hair care company is so good that plastic-free is just a bonus. Head to dipalready.com and pick up your conditioner bar and get free shipping when you use the code CONFESSIONS at checkout. I'll have that link in the show notes for you.
The last step for me would be try it one time, because if you try the leap into the unknown one time to just experience, did it feel as bad as I thought? And this is possible when the fear is there, but not overwhelming. When it's overwhelming, it's not possible. Then you need to do some work first. But if it's just fear, then you can do it step by step that way. Yeah.
I love what you said about assessing the actual risks. And one of the other things we teach in the Surf Society is like how to read the break, and you're assessing what's happening out there. And part of that practice is your entry plan and your exit plan, and knowing like, okay, if this happens, how do I get out of it? If there's that big wave there, is there a channel? I love, for example, one of the last trips we did was in Santa Cruz, and the tide was really high and it was bumping up against a cliff. And so when you come in, you got to be really strategic on the way you get in and the way you get out. And just certain little things like spending the time watching it, having a plan as much as possible, even though you're still taking a risk, a little bit of a plan. And then also, I remember my friend saying, just make sure you start to leave before you get tired. Once you start feeling tired, don't stay out there longer, start coming in. And that's a huge, like if it's big, I've paddled out in times where I'm like, oh, it's really big out here. And I do a really great paddle out. I time it great. And then I'm out there and realize I'm just fighting current and I'm tired. And all I can do is just paddle back in. And that's the whole session.
Or if you do it like me, you paddle out, you make it, and then you're like, uh-oh, how do I get back to the beach? It's not possible. It happened to me in Lombok one time. There's a spot called Desert Point. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's really famous for huge barrels on low tide. And I didn't know. I was with friends and we're just like, oh, looks like a nice spot. Let's go. I was very naive back at the time. And I made it. And I got one of my best waves that I had there. But then I was sitting there and I'm like, I know there's a shallow reef, a large shallow reef in front, tide's going low, waves are big, I can't make it. I think I will not make another wave. So I have to let myself crash in,
Yeah.
I was so scared. And 2 hours went by.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, now is the time because it's really getting low tide. It's not getting any better, And I managed somehow. And as soon as I was back at the beach, these huge barrels started rolling in. And from everywhere, these Aussie guys come. I don't know where they came from, but somehow they knew. And they're just pouring in. Everyone's going to get barrels. So many people coming out of the water, bloody. And I'm like, yeah, that's a little story. But what you said, and I think everything I said before about the strategies, what you said is the base of it, the foundation of it, because knowledge, knowing what you're doing, knowing the spot, going through worst case scenarios before, like in your mind, also play it through. And these are all my fears or my worries or things that could possibly happen. What am I going to do? And just play it through.
Yeah.
That is the foundation. And then also don't forget to think what could go right. Right.
Yeah. That's it, right? You could get the barrel of your life.
Yes. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Don't forget. There is a reason you're risking it. There's a reward in case.
Exactly. And that is a very important thing as well to ask yourself when you have a fear. What is my intrinsic motivation? Why am I doing this? Because when you suffer the strong fear, the problem is it's emotionally draining. It's so exhausting. Every session you come out of the water, you're like, okay, I love surfing, but I'm just exhausted. And that's no fun. And that's when people start losing their fun in surfing, the joy. They just don't have it anymore. They're just like, oh, it's so hard all the time. Yeah.
What's your suggestion for people that feel like they get in that slump?
Really just do mental training, do some therapy, just get at the bottom of it. and work through it. I mean, it can be with me. I'm specialized in that, but it can be anyone who's a therapist and who knows how to deal with fear, how to help you build your self-confidence. And there's so many different kind of things you can do. You know, some people, they really like hypnotherapy, but maybe other people like more somatic therapy, or, there's just different things, and you can try it out, but just do something. Don't try to do it alone. Like if it's really strong, don't try to do it alone. It will be too hard.
Yeah.
I actually started with breath work, or let's say breath training, more on the side of the apnea breath training. And it's super, super interesting because on one side, if you really get to know your breath, you're more confident in the water, but also you get to know yourself better, and you learn two things: how to calm your nervous system down, which is really important, but also, and I think that is, and I just posted on my Instagram, to be more comfortable with the uncomfortable, because feelings are a full body sensation. And I think that is what we try to avoid. Like, we don't want to feel this way.
You left us with some really great tips in the Surf Society. One of them I remember because I made like a little short clip out of it, and it was about your paddling and breathing and synchronizing, just like spending the time. Like if it's flat out there, try to synchronize your breathing and your paddling and see how much like more powerful you feel. It's just such a quick little thing. Okay, go experiment. Yeah, it's really, really cool, right? The thing I love about surfing is those nuances that make it so unique and individual to everyone's experiences. You did share with us some really great breathing techniques. I'm going to tell you, when I was on, I think there was one that you breathe in one nostril, out the other. When I was on the boat before getting pummeled on that wave that I told you about earlier, I was doing that all the way because you could see the wave breaking from where we were coming from. Yeah. Let's go through some of the workshops you shared with us in the Surf Society.
Yeah.
And kind of a little bit what they're about, and like if people want to check them out, like what they're going to learn in them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The first one is how to neutralize negative experiences in the surf.
Yes. And that one is about, but first of all, I explain some theory, what's going on in the brain, and what happens with normal information processing if we have a traumatic experience. And with traumatic, I just mean it was an overwhelming experience where you felt fear, and then afterwards you experienced fear again. So kind of the fear persisted. And when we have a traumatic experience, something in the brain, how the information is being processed, doesn't work as well anymore. That's what I explained in the beginning of this call. So I'm going through this theory, but then I give an exercise, what you can do actually to help prevent that fear lingers on. And it's a very easy exercise. Everyone can do it. Just right after it happened, go back to the beach and do the exercise. And that is when it just happens, but also I'll give a similar exercise for the situation when something happened long ago and you still have the fear, that you can repeatedly do it over and over again, because you're kind of stacking positive images over the bad one. That's the first workshop, and I think it's very helpful because it's easy and good for everything in life, not just for surfing. Whenever like you get bitten by a dog or or someone yelled at you and you got really shocked, then you can always use it.
The second one is how to calm your fears before, during, and after a session.
Yeah, and that one is about our nervous system, how it works, because I always think it's important to know what's happening, because then then you kind of understand the reason why you are doing certain exercises. Because I can tell you, do this exercise, do that exercise. And if you are a person that just follows orders, okay, you just do it, but you don't know why. And that's why. So we do a lot of calming breathing exercises, for example, because our breath is connected to our nervous system directly over the heart rate. And then, but we have our thoughts also we can work with. We have our emotions we can work with. We have our body we can work with. So in that workshop, you just get many exercises, calming exercises that you can use for all these areas.
And then the third one is using fear to your advantage in the lineup, which is such a cool concept and topic.
Yes, because we tend to see fear as something bad that we don't want to have, or at least not as strongly. But fear is energy. It's energy. What we do with this energy, we can choose. And I would like to just, in this workshop, I just highlight the advantages of fear, how it helps us actually. Whenever we talk about fear, then we are talking about, fear is good because it helps us to survive. Yes, that's true. That's the bottom of it, right? So we need fear. But also it has this energy that we can harness. And that is what I want to show people, how they can do that and how to reframe the connection they have with fear. Fear is not my enemy, but it's my friends. And how can I get from seeing it as my enemy to seeing it as my friend and actually like working together with my fear?
I mean, it just opens up the conversation. I mean, it's like a little repetitive, but not to be afraid of fear. I guess. So it's great as you took us through these workshops, and then like anyone who wants to work one-on-one with you can kind of contact you and work one-on-one with you, which is so great. So tell us more about like how you work one-on-one with people, like what that process is like. And then obviously anyone that's listening, if they want to work one-on-one with you, how they can reach you.
Yeah, I have my website, surfmentaltraining.com, and I have it in German and in English. And I do have an online calendar connected to my website. So it's really easy to book a session. And it's usually held over Zoom. And it works really well. And what I usually do is, depending on the topic, I use hypnotherapy in the session. And then I'll explain some exercises people can do at home or before the surf session or even in the water, so that they have kind of a holistic concept and not just one thing. Not just like the hypnotherapy work and then just buy, but the more holistic concept that will guide you through different stages of that process of overcoming fear. You can book a one-off session, and that's more of an input session, or I also offer a long-term coachings, which means you have a longer one-off session. It's very flexible. For example, like, let's say, okay, we catch up on WhatsApp over voice message. You just have a question, I'll just give you an input. Or we have shorter follow-up sessions, like half an hour. But then it's ongoing. And that is actually what I prefer, because then, as you know yourself, probably with some things in life, you know how to do it, but then it's still hard to do it yourself when you're by yourself. Yeah.
And consistency always wins.
Consistency, yes, it is in everything in life, literally everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Who do you feel like is a good candidate for working with you?
I usually work with women, because I'm also a woman, and I think I do understand the mind and emotions of women better than from men. I don't exclude men. I mean, there's men, they're very open, very emotional. But I feel I click more with people who think in a similar way that I do. I understand them better. That's why I prefer. So mostly women, and it's actually all surfers who want to improve their surfing on the mental level. Because it's not just about fear, right? Mental training is not just about fear. It's so much about building self-worth, building self-confidence. And confidence means I trust in my abilities. And that can be technical, but it can be mental. It can be so many things, right? So actually, I have a very broad audience. If you feel a fear, if you have a mental block, big one is also being really hard on yourself, putting so much pressure on yourself, criticizing yourself, and then being frustrated. That's a big one too.
Yeah.
Actually, that's one of the big three.
Yeah. I think it's underrated how much mental work can improve your surfing.
Yes.
And like that's in my journey, honestly, So like I also have like workshops, the Declare Your Surf Persona, which is all about like what is actually at the root of your relationship with surfing, because there's the positive side and the negative side. And I wrote the workshop. So when I did it to like a couple months ago, but my goals have changed. It was really interesting. One of the questions is, I don't remember what it asked, but my response was, I only think that people who are good surfers and can walk to the nose are like tall and thin. Mm-hmm. And, this is coming from mentally imagery on like Instagram. Those are mostly the videos I see. And I just realized like, wait, I don't identify my body type as that. So how am I going to do a thing that I don't even think my body is made for? And then, that then was like, oh, wow, I need to change that idea. Yeah. That had nothing to do with like the technique.
No.
Zero.
Yeah. I have an example from dancing, and I danced hip hop street dance when I was in my early 20s. And there was one friend, she was overweight, quite a lot. She was so flexible. She just rocked it. It was incredible. I'm like, it was so cool. It was so cool. And that's where I thought, you look at her and we are conditioned to think, and I'm no different. I'm conditioned to have some prejudices. And I think, this person might not be flexible, or this person might not be, not have a good endurance, or whatever you think, just because of the weight of their body. And then I'm like, wait a minute. No. We should not do it with others, but we should not do it with ourselves. She was a great example, and I will never forget her performance. Just showed me it doesn't matter. We are our own limit, right?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I'm so stoked to connect with you again, and I'll make sure to put all the resources in the show notes for anyone that wants to reach out to you. And then also in the Surf Society, we have your 3 workshops that our members are all welcome to go through. Just such a good intro, so many good nuggets in there. And then obviously I love that if you have bigger things you want to work on and take it further, working with you, I would highly recommend it. I always do all the time. So
and I would recommend to join your platform, because it's not just my workshops. There's so many others that are really, really cool for surfers, and yours as well, because yours are about the mental as well. Like the surf persona is so important. It's really, really cool.
I love it. This is why I love this community. We just are so supportive of each other, rooting for each other all the time, even though we don't get to catch up every too often. But thank you so much, Kim, for coming on Confessions of a Surf Lady. It's been a pleasure to have you.
And thank you too, Laura. It has been a pleasure to be here.
All right, lady, we've come to the end of our episode, but not the end of the conversation. After listening, I hope that you feel represented, empowered, and even better connected to your surf sisters in our beautiful Surf Lady community. Let's stay connected before our next episode. Follow me on Instagram at Confessions of a Surf Lady. And follow our amazing women's surf community, where we get together to learn more, surf better, and live happy. That is at Surf Society, spelled SOCIETE. Last but not least, join us in our exclusive Surf Society platform. Join us for your first week free by clicking the link at the top of the show notes. Thank you so much for bringing your unique and beautiful self to our lineup at Confessions of a Surf Lady. I'll see you on our next episode. Your host, Laura Day.